And now let's go to Professor of European Law, Francesco Rizzuto from Liverpool Hope University. Francesco, let's talk about this statement that we heard from Vladimir Putin just a day ago. For the first time during this conflict, this crisis, we heard him say that, yes, compromise could be possible. He even praised some of French President Emmanuel Macron's suggestions, which were pretty simple. So could this be the first sign that Putin is looking for a way out of this that saves some face?
Good afternoon. I think so. Look, Macron's objective was to make sure that the European Union and certainly France were at the table, because there is a resentment that the United States, with their sidekicks, the United Kingdom, were deciding the strategy on Russia in a way that excluded the Europeans. So that was very important. I think what Macron did was to give Putin a carrot. In other words, Macron recognized as legitimate Russia's security interests. And I think that that was a small chink, if you like, of light in what has been fairly grim until now. That's given Putin the opportunity. If I can come back, actually, to some of your reports. Look, I think your listeners have got to understand that Putin's strategy, he is not going to de-escalate until he has security guarantees in the context of a comprehensive agreement. This is the only game he can play. And I think, you know, what is amazing is how naive Western leaders have been in trying to work out what Putin is trying to do here. The idea that Russia will invade Ukraine, of course, they have the power to do that, but the consequences would be devastating for them. So this is what is amazing is the way Western leaders, the United States, as well as Britain, less so elsewhere, have played up this game. Now, as a strategy of making Putin back off, that is not going to work, really. So I think that will continue until the United States and Russia work out that actually Ukraine will not be joining NATO anytime soon. That is the bottom line. The rest, if you like, of those Russian demands are not going to go anywhere, and Moscow knows pretty well they're not going to go anywhere. But of course, we in the West, or some of us in the West, have almost not recognized the legitimacy of Russian fears. And I think the minute you do that, then you can start discussing future arrangements, and then possibly you'll see some de-escalation. But until then, this is going to continue. But I get a feeling that over the next 2 or 3 weeks, thanks to the French initiative, actually, which for the first time in Western quarters has recognized Russian fears as legitimate.
Yeah.
If I can just continue, what is Putin trying to do here? I've heard talk here of spheres of influence, you know, the Cold War division of Europe. No, he's not. My view is that actually, first and foremost, he's concerned about Russian security. Secondly, he is concerned to ensure that Russia is recognized as a great power in Europe as well as in the rest of the world. So it's about what the French call amour-propre, pride. Thirdly, I don't doubt for 1 minute that he is trying to build what we might call a modern version of Greater Russia. So Belarus, Ukraine, all those ethnic borderlands, if you like, that he wants to somehow reattach. Kazakhstan, another example. We forget that Kazakhstan was going to go into a monetary union with Russia. So, and also the discussions with Belarus. So the strategy is not difficult to see what he's trying to do. I guess what's frightened people is the fact that he's committed 140,000 troops to really make the point. But ultimately, that's the only point he can make until we concede that he does have legitimate interests to protect. And I think until then, things are going to remain tense.
But also the demands that he put out there, at least initially, were demands that everyone knew, that he knew would not be satisfied by the West. And that's where the fear factor lies. So, was this just a pretext for some kind of invasion? We also know how great the costs would be on Russia if he did take military action. We all know how unpopular that would be within Russia.
Yes.
Not that Putin necessarily cares. So let's just say that this all fizzles out one way or another. He gets some kind of face-saving agreement. If this was all just a feint to show that he can rattle the entire world quite effectively, it would seem, though, the only one to really benefit in this would be Ukraine, as it's improved its military and vastly expanded its support.
Yes, without a doubt, Ukraine would benefit. However, the price that we in the West are going to have to pay is that we're going to have to, what Macron has half conceded already, the idea of Ukraine joining NATO, I'm afraid, is really his red line. And whether we like it or not, we might talk about principle. What we have to find in the West is a way of maintaining our principal position that, of course, a democratic state has the choice to decide its own future, military or otherwise. We have to square that with the idea that Russia does not like its left rib suddenly joining another body, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah.
Remember, and I think it's squaring that circle or getting a balance there, talking about Scandinavia and the Baltic states. No, they were never part of greater Russia in the Russian consciousness and so on. That was just a ploy, in my view. But yes, Ukraine may benefit. But look, there's another very important game here, of course. And this is where it gets a little bit murkier. A lot of Europe, a lot of Western Europe, including Germany, has become rather dependent, perhaps Germany more than anybody else, on, of course, Russian gas.
Sure.
And so that's another kind of pressure. So, look, Putin is not mad. Putin is a very, very clever and very adept strategist. And he has known how to play this in terms of his objective. And his objective was security and ensuring that the borders of Russia, as far as, if you like, the historical idea of Russia, would not be pierced, if you like, by NATO. And I think that has always been what he's been about here.
Got it. Okay, Francesco, always great to talk to you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Pleasure.